I started to play drums from about the age 4 or 5. I actually don't remember being taught, but it was kind of, I've watched old movie footage of where I'm playing as a child. Mainly I used to play along to like jukebox. My dad would program it, and generally I've spoken about before is I'd be woken up in the middle of the night, you know, Dad would come and wake me up and say, oh, come and play drums for my friends. And I'd come downstairs in my pajamas and he'd put the jukebox on. I'd play like All Right Now or something from Bad Company and Free and or the Stones. And he was just very proud. So that was kind of my, you know, there's the kind of the parties and musicians. Didn't really know anything different. So to me it was just music. I really didn't take music really seriously. I don't know why. When I was a child I got into dirt bikes and I wanted to be a dirt bike racer, and I raced. And I was pretty good at that. And I was second in the British Championship, and I was sponsored. So drumming kind of became a kind of a second thing to me. So I wasn't, much to Dad's dismay, he really wanted me to concentrate on the drums, but he was happy for me to be on the bikes as long as I was enjoying it and doing good and trying, you know, as long as I tried my best. And it really was his death that kind of turned it around again for me. I rode for 1 more year racing bikes, and even though I had an offer to go pro, to be professional, I kind of hung up the helmet and picked up the sticks again and said, you know what, I'm going to carry on the family name. He was totally a Gemini in reality. He was Bonzo on the road with Zeppelin. You know, the wild man that would completely demolish John Paul Jones's room with a samurai sword in Tokyo Hilton and banned Led Zeppelin from ever going to any Hilton hotel ever again. The same John Bonham that hammerjacked his way through from one hotel room to the next, even though they say it was Keith Moon that did that, but it was in Dad's room. The man that threw George Harrison from a second-story balcony into a swimming pool. Yeah, I mean, of course, I read about these things and get told some of them. But like anything, I know, I've heard stories of what I've done, things I remember doing, and hearing them back, they always sound much better after they've been passed around a few years. You know, everyone adds a little bit. So I'm sure there are truths in a lot of it, and I will not try and, you know, take anything away from Dad. But there are probably some little exaggerations, like anything, you know. But, I mean, I never saw him as, he was always Dad, you know, at home. He was this loving father figure. I mean, somebody said to me, don't you have any, like, bad memories of your dad? And I was like, no. And they said, well, is that weird? Isn't that weird that you haven't got anything of, like, when he said to you, you've got to do this, you'll go to your room? And I'm like, no. And I think that's kind of nice, you know. I don't have any horrible memory. And my wife and some people say, oh, it's select memory loss. It means you block out the things that you don't want to remember. You just remember the good times because he's not here. And I went, no, it was all pretty good, you know. We had private planes, went on vacations in private planes, vacated with members of the Beatles, you know, in that villa in the south of France, as people do. Didn't you do that when you were growing up? You know? People say to me, oh, you had a wild upbringing. And I'm like, how can it be wild if you don't know anything else? All it is a normal upbringing, because I had to go to school. If my grades were bad, my dad was angry. So it's exactly, if I ate with my mouth open, I was told off at the table. If I played with my knife and fork, I was told off at the table. That's normal. If my room was a mess, he would go mad, or Mum would go mad. So it was a completely normal upbringing. The fact that, yes, my father was in a huge band, you know, one of the biggest bands of the world, called Led Zeppelin. At home, you would never have known. Never would have known.